So the government recently launched this thing called the PuTERA35 framework, which I think it's their own interpretation and their own way of wanting to promote the new economic policy in Malaysia. You know, those of you all who are in Malaysia knows that this policy is a bedrock of our society. And for those of you who don't know, maybe foreigners or you're new to analyzing economic and financial markets, now you know. Go read up on the NEP to understand this a little bit better. Too busy to find stock ideas? Check out Fire Pro to shortcut your research time and effort by 90%. 10% off link in the comments and description. So what is the main objective of PuTERA 35? And I assume this is by the Madani government, right?
Yes.
So they want to raise the status and dignity of the Bumi-Putra community. In what way? Mainly through economic participation and ownership and control. This has been an old problem that still persists till today, after 67 years.
Yeah.
Where there is a bit of an imbalance between the wealth and even income
among the NECCP,
people within the Bumi-Putra categorization versus the non-Bumi-Putra categorization. So they divide the framework into three cores. One is the economic foundation of the country, then is the governance of the institutions, and then social justice.
This is like the ESG, you know, but the E is the economic, the S is the social, G is governance. Yeah.
But maybe the core and 3 and 2 should.
Yeah, so there's a couple of initiatives. So far, I think there's no translation. It's all in Malay. But then we are just
and I'm going to assume they say 35 because that's 2035. That's when they want to achieve this.
Correct. Yes,
okay.
2035. Yeah. Okay, this is their aim, and we're going to give our honest opinion for each of these goals.
Yes.
All right. So number one, we have here, it is increasing their equity ownership by individuals and Bumi-Putra mandated agency from 18.4% to 30%.
Yeah.
So this number is a huge number. Basically, they're going to be increasing 11.7% stake. They didn't mention which company, but we can safely assume it's going to be like listed company or basically just big corporations in the big scene. So yeah, first off the bat, you already have this ownership increasing. My thoughts is basically, I think we need to have some sort of like performance tracker. There needs to be some accountability in terms of giving them ownership. So number one, if they can bring in connection or can bring in some insights or information or expertise that can help boost the company's fundamentals in the future, I think this increasing ownership should be given. If that's the case. Yeah, as long as anything that can improve a business, there shouldn't be any resistance.
Another thing about this is, and for context, if you guys didn't know, this number during the early days of our country was like less than 2%, about 2%. And then I think in 2015 it was 15%, and today, 2020, is about 18.4%. As of 2023, I'm not sure how much. But just to be clear, it's not like, 82% is non-Bumi-Putras, because we also have foreign companies that own, like, Nestle, DG Celcom, they own a bit here. So it's not totally
100%
non-Bumi-Putras. But of course, a big chunk is not Bumi-Putra. My estimate is maybe 50 to 60%. So they want to bump it up to 30%. That is pretty much in line with the original thought of the NEP, where the general participation of the majority in this country, which are the Bumi-Putras, need to be around 30%. So to your point about performance, that's very true. The second thing I would add is, a lot of times these Bumi-Putra, they get allocation from, let's say, IPOs or any stock quite easily, because they have certain treatments, right? That they preferences for them.
Correct.
But unfortunately, many times they sell it, so they get the shares through this privilege, and they just sell it.
Yeah, or they're actually not interested, because if you notice, right, the success rate to actually get a ballot for Bumi versus non-Bumi, right, the success rate is higher for Bumi.
Yeah.
I think the reason is because there's just lack of participation among the Boomi investors. They are not really, probably it's because they are not interested in equity. They are in other kind of asset classes. Could be property, could be crypto, could be forex or everything. So yeah, that's why you can see that their chances of getting, IPO is very high.
Exactly. And imagine they have a higher chance, and then what happens that many of them sell. Because it's like, in a way, it's almost like free money, especially if the first day it goes up, right, for IPO. But we know as far as long-term wealth is concerned, you actually, like say, the performance, you put in the work in the company, you contribute to the company, and then over the long term, it grows.
Yes.
So I think that's something to understand about how we can bring that number from 18.4% to 30%. There needs to be performance plus patience, and not think that it's a payday just because you got IPO.
Yes. So that's the first point. The second one, I think this one is a little bit more, you can just skim through. This one is Boomi Putra participation and control through GLC and also GLC's equity. So this number is a little bit smaller. I think their participation is already quite big already. I mean, it's just like a 1.3% bump up for the next 15 years. So yeah, this one, I think I'm fine with this one. There's no comment or thoughts on this one. What about you?
No. I think the next one is also not much comment. I mean, 73 to 75.
Yeah.
We're pretty much there.
Yeah, it's pretty much similar. But then I just want to share a little bit more statistics that they actually shared over here. So this is the ownership. I know it's Malay, but I'm just please bear with me. I'll just explain one by one. Pasaran Primer and Pasaran Secunda. So this is primary market, this is secondary market.
So primary is when they buy straight from the developer.
Yes,
right?
the developer. Then there's your Bumi Putra, and then there's your total lah, keseluruhan. So they categorize it into your residential, your for business, property for business, and
commercial,
commercial and industrial. So you notice that about like 50% is actually the Bumi Putra owns these residential property. It's already quite a huge number already. And however, if you look at secondary market, right, the number actually drops quite a lot. I think it's only like 30+% of them only own secondary home. And there's a reason why they own more primary as opposed to secondary. Number one is obviously because of their savings.
Okay, it's a bit lower. Yeah,
it's a lot lower. So they don't have the money to actually pay down for the down payment and also the legal costs.
And is it also true they get a lot of, like rumah weed?
Yes.
What's the word for this? Government housing.
Yes, government housing, and also there is some Tanah Melayu, rumah reserve or something
like a reserve.
Malay reserve.
Right. Okay.
They also got that. I think that one is more towards these primary residential. Yes.
But correct us if I'm wrong.
Yes, correct. But if you notice the perdagangan side of things, right, they don't have a lot of ownership. So your commercial property, this means that the commercial properties are mostly owned by non-Bumi Putras, which is a very interesting thing because I guess also it's because of the money issue. They don't have the cost in order for you to buy commercial property, you need to pay down 50-60% down payment. That's why I think if you notice, there's a lot of these Malay businesses are actually placed in the side of the road.
Yeah, so your pondoks, the roadside stores, right?
So it's not to say that they are not businessmen, but they are businessmen. It's just that they are smart in not putting a lot of capital upfront.
They don't need to pay rent, So
just need to sometimes maybe the police will stop by.
So if I'm reading this correctly, in terms of the billion that they own, so it's about 1.54 billion in the secondary market.
Yes.
But in total is
28.73 billion. That's the value of the commercial property
for the whole entire
secondary market.
This is for that year alone.
Yes, this is for 2022.
So that means the remainder would be non-Bumi Putras plus
maybe foreigners. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Wow, so that's quite a big ratio, right? That's like more than almost 20 times.
Yeah, exactly.
And then in terms of transaction, it's about 10 times.
Yeah. So if you go down even further, which is your industrial, that one's lagi worse.
Yeah.
So I think I'm not sure whether the government wants to do something about this one, which is allowing them to own more of this commercial business. Probably also the cheapest way or affordable way is by increasing their stake. So maybe that's the one way to increase.
But the thing is, with equity, it's a somewhat passive ownership, right? But with let's say industrial land, you actually have to work the land.
Yes.
Right. So that will include effort. But of course, if that's not something that you want, then that's fine if you don't have any ownership of industry and commercial properties.
Yeah.
Because managing rent for commercial properties, managing a factory,
It's going to take a lot of
it's
time.
complicated,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It takes time.
Yeah, you need to manage people. So so there's a lot of headaches around this thing, which is also it creates a high barrier to entry to new business owners. Yeah.
So it's important if you want to balance this part out, that is the requirement. No amount of government help is gonna give you the power to put in time and effort.
Yes, exactly. So one of the ways to actually mitigate this problem, which is their less ownership on commercial industry, is actually to bump up their savings. So you can see that for their percentage in terms of KWSP for June 2021, you can see that Bumiputra savings rate is actually very, very low. Technically in every category, age category. So the one that is saving the most is Chinese. Not sure why. I think it's because there's a Chinese mindset that you have to save money for rainy days. It's implanted since young already.
Too busy to find stock ideas? Check out Fire Pro to shortcut your research time and effort by 90%. 10% off link in the comments and description. Yeah, I want to draw attention to a very interesting part about this graph, which is 55 to 59. So you can see the gap is the largest. Why? Because that's probably when people take money out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So yeah, there's actually a dump. So you can see that the Bumiputra, they took more money out. I mean, you can just see the difference in ages.
And the gap is smallest at 40 to 44, if my eyeball is correct.
Yes,
right?
yes, around there.
So that I think is a bit alarming.
Yeah. So what does this message trying to entail is basically, maybe you want to start saving more so that you can actually save more for rainy days, or even can do more for like investments. Okay, so the fourth one we have here is the ratio of Bumiputra average monthly wages salary against Chinese. So specifically, they put Chinese for a reason.
And because we are number one.
Yeah. So it's from 0.78 to 0.9.
So it's about
20%.
Yeah, 1 to 7. $1 to 78 cents, now 1 to 0.9.
Yeah, it's a 20 to 30% bump up. So the reason why is because you can see the graph over here. Chinese has been leading in terms of the monthly household income. The second one is Indian. The third one is Bumiputra, and then the Lions. So yeah, this is just facts and data that is presented to us. Maybe, just a side thought is probably maybe the Malays or Bumiputras can actually try to learn how the Indian or even Chinese do their work. I think from there, they can easily bump just from copying what the Chinese are doing. I think right now they're doing it already. I mean, because Chinese, we have always that belief is that if you want to, or actually those smart businesses, if you want to start a business, you want to use less capital and also the one that can actually, make the most sales. So for example, like your gerai in the Pondok, like what you mentioned, I think that's already a good start that they are doing that, because number one, you have very little low capital to start. And number two, you're just selling food, which is something that everyone loves it.
Yeah.
So they are on the right path. So I think that number should be improving, even though without the help of government. But of course, with the help of government, probably will be much faster.
The second thing I will add to what you said is a lot of that income probably comes from the government itself, which is civil service. So there is some sort of baseline. But I think for anyone who is in that category and you want to catch up with the Indians or the Chinese, is to be in the private sector. Now that's quite difficult, because private sector, there's no pension, there's no
your security is more.
It's very hard to fire people in the government, whereas in private, there's come and go quite a lot. The third thing is I want to add, although this is the ratio is 0.78 to 1, I actually think it's a lot bigger. And the reason why is because this only measures what people report. This is the income that people report. The fact of the matter is, whether people like it, many people unknowingly or knowingly underreport. Now, how do we know the government knows this? Because the government 10 years ago already wanted to introduce the GST. And one of the justifications of introducing the GST is instead of getting people and catching people to report higher income, what they'll do is they will just put a GST, and then they have to spend, right?
Yeah.
And they estimated that 30% of the economy is in the black or the shadow economy. And black doesn't mean illegal or anything. It just means it's just underreported.
Great. Yeah. Okay.
Right? So with the GST, it would take that into account. That's why you can see in the first few years of GST, the revenue shot up way higher than the SST. And a lot of this is not there. Now, why do people not report all that? Because especially for a lot of Chinese people, sometimes it's just they earn a job, but there are a lot of side gigs.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe they are some sort of coach for tennis, or maybe they do certain side projects.
Building websites, all those
So
stuff.
when they work at a corporation, with building websites, they get the EA form, they just report the EA form. Now, of course, some report more than that, but some don't for whatever reasons. So I actually think the gap is actually a lot bigger than this.
Yeah. So with this e-invoicing trend, I think they are trying to capture some or minimize the tax leakage.
Yes, exactly.
So that's one form to actually see the true earnings for each of these ethnicity. Now you can see the household income for these three different ethnicity. You can look at the difference between 2016, which is the darker color, and 2022. So if you notice, right, the number over here, which is the T20 level, is getting more for the Chinese and also for the Indians. For Bumiputra is also going, is also increasing, but at a much smaller scale per se. So you can see that you see like 5 to 9%, and then versus the Chinese, which is around 12 to 19%, which is like a 7% difference. This one is like a 4%, 7% difference. So yeah, a very interesting graph to look at. What is how much money did they manage to grow in just a span of 6 years? And we also can see the work that they are working. I think that will be in the next few slides, not over here, but here is just going to be focusing purely on household income. Okay, the fifth one, contribution of Bumiputra companies to GDP. So the number is 8.1%, and they want to bump it up to 15%.
Yeah.
So there's a reason why the number is so low. Number one is because, this is one of the many reasons, only there is one Bumiputra company out of 97 that is listed in the last 3 years, which is from 2021 to 2024. It's not 1%, it's 1. I don't know why they put 1%. But yeah.
It's almost 1%.
It's almost 1%. Yeah, it's a very, very small number. And the reason why it's such a minor percentage, right, is because the government or our ex-government said that because many of these Bumiputra companies are working in the public sector instead of joining the private. So the public sector only contributes like around 15%, 16%, a very small number, whereas the private is the one that is contributing the most in terms of GDP. So what's the reason? We don't know. Maybe the Bumiputras don't like to work in private. Maybe they are more comfortable in the public sector. So that's maybe one of the many reasons. But yeah, they are trying to just build more entrepreneurs among these Bumiputra community.
Yeah, and I think what I can see from this PuTERA35 you can say policy or objective is that they realize the old way of just giving people just like that. It's not going to work, right?
Yeah.
Or to achieve what they want to achieve. And I think this is the big difference, because we look at income gap and there's 20-30% difference and things like that. But I think this is the big difference between the Bumi and the non-Bumi community. You can see it's 8%. Right, the Bumiputra population is close to 70%.
Yeah.
Right, and the non-Bumi is 30%. So imagine if you're around 8% versus 92. Okay, let's call it 70 or 75 because there's foreign companies, right? But 70-75% is controlled by 30% of the population, and then it's like a flip.
Yeah, so 80-20 rule.
Yeah, in that sense. So I think this is the area to close the gap. And unfortunately, building businesses, I speak as a Chinese, it's in the blood, right? Because we are in many ways immigrants from other land. And so the thing about immigrants is they typically more resources because they realize that they are in a different land from where their ancestors came from. And so they are more resourceful. They create connections. A lot of Chinese businessmen have connections in China, Taiwan, Singapore, of course, Thailand, Indonesia, things like that. So there's like a community of international businesses, and that's how they grow their business, not just within Malaysia, but beyond Malaysia as well. If you look at, just to share another stat, the top 10, so the largest export in Malaysia is semiconductors, right? The top 10 semiconductors companies are, if I'm not mistaken, all owned by Chinese, right? Some of the top oil and gas, count Petronas out, but the top oil and gas companies are also owned and run by Chinese, right? Whether it's Yinsen, whether it's Dialog.
Chinese and Indian.
Indian. So Hibiscus, Dilium, right? So these top oil and gas companies. So if you take the semiconductor plus the oil and gas, that's like half your exports already, and a lot of them are dominated by Chinese and Indians. Then even if you go below, right, the smaller industries like plastics, Sintex, Dongguan, BP Plastics, you go into gloves, it's Tan Sri here, Tan Sri there, Supermax, Kosan,
then 99 Speed Mart,
Mr. DIY, Farm Fresh. You can see it's always them, and I think that is the big gap for Bumiputera's to close, because and I think there's a good opportunity, because no matter what, there's one area that non-Bumiputera's will not be able to be as good as, which is the halal community. So any products, right, that caters towards this community should in theory be done better by Bumiputera's, and because there's 70% of the population like that, and then if you include Indonesia, so there's another 200 odd million, you have a fantastic opportunity. Too busy to find stock ideas? Check out Fire Pro to shortcut your research time and effort by 90%. 10% off, link in the comments and description.
Okay, I'm gonna go to the end already.
So this one doesn't not.
This one, just go to skip through. Just a poverty rate, and this one is fine. The other one also, Bumiputera graduates in labor force.
So this one I think should not be an objective. The reason is because when you set this as an objective, what ends up happening is not necessarily that people start becoming better and getting degrees, is that the standards of degrees start to drop. Which is easier, to get people to get more degrees and improve, or to just drop the standards so more people can be degree holders? My answer is the second one. So I don't think this is the right objective. What we need to be specific. We need the right kind of degree. So if you have, sorry to say, if you have a degree in a non-marketable skill, let's say, name me a non-marketable
business.
Yeah, okay, maybe business. With all due respect, mass communication, right?
You can say my one, marketing.
Yeah, marketing. I mean, the irony is that marketing is not as marketable, but compared to, let's say, STEM subjects, right? Engineering, math, science, medicine, whatever, those are very marketable, right? Even finance and accounting, these are also very marketable. Law, very marketable. Things like that, healthcare, nursing. So we need to be specific, right? Percentage of Bumiputera graduates in marketable degrees, and those degrees are not given willy-nilly, where standards are lowered just so that we can increase the admission and graduates, that they need to be big. Then we can have that objective, but it'll be just a blanket, a number of graduates in Bumiputera labor force. It won't change anything. In fact, it makes things worse, because now they think they're valuable just because they have a degree, and they go into the workforce and they realize they cannot be hired. I still remember about a year ago, there was this graduate who somehow managed to take a degree in engineering, totally without any improvement of the command of English. So if you have no command in English, you can't get into
there's a communication there's a communication barrier.
And so he was like complaining and saying, how is this fair? I have a degree, in engineering. Why do I need to speak? Well, because that's how the plans work. That's how the science works. It's all in English, right? Whether you like it or not. I mean,
the word is all. I mean,
I'm Chinese and I have to learn English, right? So that's why I think among all the objectives, this is probably the worst one for me. It really shouldn't be that. It should be the quality of graduates. Don't drop the standards, and of course the type of degrees. That is the most important.
Yeah. Okay. The final one, which is their participation in high skill jobs, 61% to 70%. I think this one they're trying to build more probably engineers.
So what is? You see, that's where there's a bit of a mismatch, right? Because we always say that Malaysian income is low and doesn't grow, and then of course among the three big groups, Bumi Putras have the lowest income. Yet 61% of them are high skilled.
Yeah.
So then my question is, if they're high skilled, how come they're not high income?
Yeah. So you can see this is actually a breakdown for their professions. You can see that majority of them are working in pendidikan perubatan, basically your medicine sector, and also jururawat, which is your nurse. They are mostly more in the hospital segment. But I mean, as you can tell, right, the hospital has a right now it's undersupplied, but it used to be an oversupplied situation.
Yeah.
So right now come down already because nobody.
But interestingly, that's also where I spoke to Mate before, and he said that one of the areas where the NEP has worked really well for Bumi Putras is actually the healthcare sector.
Yeah.
So you can see very clearly they've really done well.
Yeah. So that one is good, but in terms of because my sister also, they are working in the hospital segment, so definitely there is a lot of these mismanagement, and also overpromise, underdeliver among the management. So there's a lot of issue going around, which I think the Ministry of Healthcare need to take note on this one, because it's actually a pretty dire state that we are lacking a lot of these skilled doctor, just because of the management is just not doing their job well. Yeah, and they are not leaving because they hate their job. They're leaving is because of the management.
I see.
Yeah, so that is the sad reality that we are facing right now. The top guys I don't know what they're doing, but then it's not doing a good job. That's why there's a lot of these doctors are actually going to do private.
Yeah.
Yeah. Number one, obviously, is the pay is high. Number two is because of the, your whatever advice that you gave is not being silent, or whatever suggestions is not being silent, and it's not being controlled by anyone. So that's why they are going more towards private. Now, I mean, if you can look at the Chinese, right, they are actually more working in accounting.
No surprise. So
numbers are numbers, people.
Accounting is there. You can lump finance in as well.
Law and architect. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'm quite surprised that there's more Bumi Putras are working in ID. Yeah, as compared to Chinese. I thought there's more Chinese.
What is Juru Ukur Tanah?
This one is your value, I think. Land value or something like that. Yeah. Right. This one I'm also surprised that there's more Bumi Putra. This one I didn't know that.
But what's interesting is that these are the only categories. Like, where's engineering?
Yeah.
But
high skilled labor not here.
Where's coders?
Yeah.
Where's like finance? So
there's a few things that maybe we hope that they can include, but they didn't. So that's the few our own opinions on their objective. And now we want to share a little bit on the right strategy. Just now we did mention about the equity ownership. So I believe that this one, it needs to be a performance base. There needs to be some accountability for this increase in ownership. I mean, don't just increase ownership just because of the Bumi Putra. Obviously, you want to have some sort of contributions to help the business to grow even bigger. I think that is always the end of the objective. You need to create a win-win situation for both the company and also for the one that wants more stake in a particular company. So anything you want to add on for this one?
No, I think except just to repeat, if you ever get the opportunity to grab hold of some of these good companies, don't just sell them just because it was given to you.
Yeah. Number two is a little bit more controversial, but then I think it has to be said. If you want to be the best, you have to learn what the best is doing. So whoever that is earning high, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be the Chinese or Indians, because I know that there is some entrepreneurs who is the Bumi Putra and they are doing very well. So for example, like Cairo, He's selling like those chili at his
Nilofa.
space. Yeah,
It's
he's
another
good
one.
at social media and
Yeah.
everything. I think that is like the path for Bumiputras to actually learn from him, because he already created that secret recipe on how to grow your business to like millions, to even tens of millions of our revenue. And then another example we have is Financial Fires, which is also another YouTuber on
Yeah.
finance. So that's
Yeah.
also another one that he has a huge community and huge audience. And yeah, basically they are all doing something that it's actually what we will categorize as a high earner, or the one that can contribute the
Yeah.
most or back to the country. So yeah, that's the second point. The third one is education. Just now you did mention about the fresh graduates that you get high, right?
Yeah.
So there's only a few skills that you need to master. You need to build a solid foundation around this one. So you have English, math, science, and also I'll just put that communication skill, because I think that matters.
Yeah.
If you cannot talk to your boss, you cannot talk to your colleagues. I think that's it. Like you cannot like work in the workforce. But yeah, English, math, science, I think this one is a given. Because English, number one, is the world is that's the medium of communication. You have to learn how to speak in English. Math, this one is more for you to be more analytical, a little bit to wire your brain, to train your brain to think
similar to
critically.
science.
Yeah, similar to science.
So I mean, the way you think about it is like that, right? Okay, so what's the objective? High income, right? And wealth. So, okay, how do you do that? Well, you just reverse engineer. What are the jobs or the professions or careers that produce this? So we know accountant, lawyer, engineer, medicine, business, these five. There's very more software, right? But you get the point. So then the next question is, okay, what is required of these jobs? Well, that's where the education comes in. So you need to learn English, Mandarin if you want to work in China, mathematics, science, and then of course communication for people skills.
Yes.
So what does that translate to into your personal life? It means that you need to consume content that is related to English, math, science, right? And if you are a parent, then you need to emphasize these subjects in school to improve. Of course, it depends on your child as well, right? Not everyone is have the right you can say temperament or IQ, but at least emphasize why these are important, because I think that will really get you to a different level in terms of income. And if you say no, there are some people who say no, we don't want to learn any of this, we want to focus on other subjects, that's fine. But I think if you want to ignore all of these subjects but still want a high income, that's not how it works. There's a trade-off. If you ignore English, math, and then now maybe Mandarin, communication skill and science, accounting or whatever, then don't expect to get careers that are high paying, which means do not expect to have high pay, which means you cannot expect high wealth. If you're okay with that and you want to ignore these subjects, that's fine as well. Everybody is, have their own lives. But what I personally don't like is when they complain. When people say, no, I don't want to learn all this. But why am I poor? That doesn't work. The answer is in the question itself.
Yeah.
So then the link to that is you can get a high income and all that, but you also need to be able to keep the wealth that you generate. And that a lot of it comes from delay gratification, meaning you don't spend today just because you can. Unfortunately, the stories I heard from friends who own, motorbike spare parts shop, when the government allowed people to withdraw money from EPF in 2022, I believe, people didn't take that out for rent or for upskilling education or just for daily expenses. They took it to modify their bikes.
It's instant gratification.
Why, right? You keep it there if you are doing this in your 20s or 30s, that let's call it 10,000 ringgit would be worth 50,000 ringgit maybe, right? When you are retired.
Yeah.
So that's very, very important.
Yeah, not only just like motorbikes. I mean, it could be like harmful substances. So, for example, like smoking or even like This is for the Chinese if you are drinking alcohol. I mean, if you just take out, there's always ways to actually make you stay sane, and also make you be more healthier and also be more productive. So number one is, if you think that smoking can help you really stress well, just expose yourself to the sun. You just go outside in the morning sun, 10 minutes every day. I think you definitely feel much better. So, and then number two is your food intake. I mean, if you're eating well, and you're not simply eating like those, like your fried chicken every single day, or maybe even nasi lemak every single day, right? I mean, that will actually create some chemicals inside your body that will make your mood either very sloppy, you feel very tired, or you just don't feel very energetic. So number two, that's your food intake. So the last one is basically very simple. It's just exercise only. If you exercise every day, I'm pretty sure that you stay fit, you'll be more energetic, and you don't need to rely on any substance to actually, to be sane. Put it that way. So yeah, these are the few delay gratification practices that you can do. And the final one, I think it is also quite underrated, but then it is explained a lot or shared a lot, which is you have to start young. I mean, if you are starting late, that's fine also, because better late than never. But the way that you can actually build your mental model or foundation is start distilling it since young. So that means for parents or future parents or going to be parents, you have to educate your child very properly. I'm actually very grateful that my mom, since young, she brought me to a lot of tuition. Actually, at last I hate it. I don't know. I don't understand why. Until I'm older, then I start to know it's because I wasn't disciplined back then. But right now, I'm just like being like a disciplined, grown up.
You understand why?
Yeah, understand why. 20 years later.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely need to start young. Educate your child. Don't pamper them too much. Just straight away distill values. Very, very crucial and important values that they can actually benefit them for their future. Yeah. Anything to add?
Nope.
Yeah. Okay. So that's about it for today's juicy content, and we want to end this with a quote from Gordon B. Hinckley. So he said that you cannot build a great building on a weak foundation, and you must have a strong foundation or solid foundation if you're going to have a strong superstructure. So I believe, he already explained it good already. Start young, build the right habits, build the right value, build the right foundation. I think you would definitely do well in life. All the best is all we can say. And before you guys go, this is the FirePro's performance for August 2024. It is down quite a little bit as compared to last month's. So right now it's about 40.53%. Catalyst portfolio, if you look at the chart, is just very, very red. And the reason why it's red is because we have actually minimized our number of trading activities for the Catalyst portfolio. Personally, I'm seeing that there is quite a volatile situation right now, which is why I have been cutting on this and focusing more on just building or investing in companies that I understand, and also the ones that is paying out dividends consistently. And last one, obviously, a boring portfolio is also down quite a little bit. Now it's 4.63%, but it's quite steady because the amount of dividends that they have been distributing and potentially that they're going to be giving out in the future will be quite a lot. So probably in September, this return for boring portfolio, I think, will be much better off as compared to right now. So if you want to know what is FirePro, Catalyst, and Boring portfolio all about, we have this free sample for you. So if you want to check out how we analyze companies, how we value management, there's a free sample report. We did 2 write-ups inside this free sample, and the links will be in the description and comments below.
And remember, 10% off.
Yes. So that's about it for today. See you guys next week.